Hello, welcome back. Today I want to talk about a really exciting milestone in my game development journey here, and that is the fact that I completed a game jam. Now, completed doesn't mean I did a good job, but there are a lot of like really cool things I feel like I learned from this game jam, and I really want to just talk about those and just the general path I took for this game jam. I feel like we didn't do it the most optimal way, so I'm really curious to hear how you guys approach game jams and maybe how we could have done our process a little better. So leave a comment and let me know what we did wrong. So the game jam I decided to participate in is Pirate Jam 16, hosted by none other than Pirate Software himself. When I saw this pop up, the start date was very soon after my last video went out, so I know I had talked about in that last video doing more game jams or game jams in general since I hadn't at that point. And I thought that'd be a good way to kind of test my skills and even learn some new things. So when I saw that one pop up, I thought this is the perfect opportunity to try it. I think Pirate Software is a big voice in the community for people who want to get into game development, want to try new things, want to do, something creative, all of the above. So it's kind of like a sign that after I posted my last video talking about, how I wasn't super satisfied with my skills, seeing his game jam starting very shortly after that video and me thinking about what my next step was going to be, it was almost like the perfect scenario for me to try this and see if I can even do it, I decided to do this game jam with my brother and sister as they have some unique skills that could really help me so I can focus more on just the programming side of this. My sister focused more on the art since she is going into school for art. She's going to be a graphic designer. And my brother, he's really tech savvy and he is kind of in this world a little bit. So he helped me with some basic coding stuff as well as just some extra side work like the GDD and maybe finding sound effects, things like that. So now that I have my squad together, we spent the first day tackling the theme of the game jam, which was You Are the Weapon. We spent the whole first day, honestly, just thinking up of an idea of what we wanted our game to be. And we settled on the idea that what better way to become the weapon, or you are the weapon, than putting yourself into the game. So our game is based upon us three being in the game and fighting some enemy and having physical traits or physical attacks be like the main idea of the game. We also want to add the mechanic that you could switch between each player and all the players are on the field at the same time. So that way you could have some unique strategies where maybe one player is a ranged attack focused player and they're really good at taking out a certain enemy type, whereas, another player is more of a medium range and the other one's a tank. That was the initial idea. So from that core concept, we came up with the idea of Pizzageist, which ended up being our final game that we pushed forward with. So the idea behind Pizzageist was that us three just really wanted some pizza. So we ended up trying to go to this pizzeria. It ends up being haunted and we have to fight off these hordes of demon-possessed pizzas. Some are cheese pizzas. They have like a little pizza cutter and they're trying to basically shank you. And there's pepperoni pizzas and they'd be like the range fighters and just chucking pepperonis at you. I think the idea of having pizzas as the enemy was firstly, like, kind of cute, and secondly, allowed for many different enemy types. I thought this worked well with our theme of, we can really put ourselves into the game and we can, have punch attacks. Maybe we can, have our certain traits about us be shown in the game and be used as attacks or weapons. For me personally, being a new dad, maybe I have like a sack of dirty diapers, which is such a weird thing to say out loud. But maybe I'd be the ranged attacker and chucking diapers. These are just really quick ideas we had initially, and we didn't have a lot of time. This game jam was only 2 weeks long, so we had to move quickly. With the ideas out of the way, we all got to work. My sister began making the player sprites and the player sprite sheets. We had animations and made them look really nice, whereas I tackled the idea of trying to make it so that we could switch between players, as it's something I haven't done before. And I thought it would take me a long time. It ended up not being that long, thankfully. It was tricky at first, but with a few tweens and some really nice, I thought, nice code, we were able to switch between players pretty quickly. So that mechanic of the game was done relatively easily. Once I was done with that, I wanted to start tackling some of the bigger parts of the game, such as at first we thought about having it being procedurally generated because the idea was it was going to be like a roguelike type game where, you know, every time you play it, it's a little different and you want to like maybe even level up, and we just wanted to have that option. So I wanted to look into procedural generation because, I mean, it was the second day at this point. I thought we had plenty of time to figure that out. Boy, was I wrong. It was way more complicated than I had initially thought. I thought maybe I'd be able to kind of work through it fairly easily by myself and with like some help from the internet. And oh man, that was a rough experience trying to go through that by myself. Thankfully, Godot has their asset library, and there was a helpful plugin called Gaia. Don't know how to pronounce it. I think it's Gaia. And it basically has a procedural generation code for you, and you just paint terrains on tile sets, and that will allow you to have a procedural generated area pretty quickly. So once I had that and the players' mechanics down with movement and stuff like that, by this time I had player sprites, started throwing them in, trying to get those to work. It was actually pretty easy to get the player sprites and everything together. I struggled with figuring out how to get the hitbox for the punch animation to flip as depending on which direction you're facing. Thankfully there's some great tutorials out there, and I have now a system put in place where I have a modular way to slap in that type of hitbox easily now. Kind of a flippable sprite class that I made is really nice. It's actually really helpful. I'm excited to use that later. But it was not as easy as I thought it was going to be. I also ran into the issue very early on of I knew that I wanted the hitbox to only be active during certain parts, and that's totally fine. I thought it'd be totally easy, but I went about it the wrong way initially. I had set up all our animations as animated player sprites in Godot, and this is fine for things I think like moving and being idle and stuff like that, but once you're trying to have like something else happening during the animation, you have so much more control using the animation player, I found. And that's something I should have done initially, and it just set me back so much because I spent so much time trying to get the animated sprites 2D to work, when it's been so much easier if I just took the time to learn the animation player a little more and just use that instead. And once I did, it was so easy. So there's a little setback with that. Another setback we had was, now that point that I had the first cheese pizza enemy, I wanted to try getting the spawning system to work. And my first thought was I would just use the atlas coordinates in the tile set to basically, you know, go over and pick a random spot for the pizza to spawn on our map. Then check that the atlas coordinates is like the floor part of our tile set. And if it is, spawn the enemy. And if it's not, try to pick a new spot. That was like the basic idea that I came up with. The problem was, for some reason, with our procedural generation, the atlas coordinates weren't correct based on what tile was underneath the enemy. They're all like concentrated in the middle as the atlas coordinates that we wanted, and as you got farther away, even though it was a floor tile, it showed a different atlas coordinate. So none of the pieces were spawning on the edges of the map. They were all just concentrated in the middle. So I have no idea why it was doing that, and it was super frustrating. I spent like probably a day and a half trying to figure out why this wasn't working. It was bugging the crap out of me that I couldn't get it to work. And I never did get it to work. I had to pivot really fast. Because of that, I mean, we had to scrap the whole procedural generation thing, which I think, looking back, is way overscoped for what we were trying to do. Instead, I just made a square box that we were going to fight in, and I just, you know, had the dimensions and made sure the pizzas only spawn in the middle of the box somewhere, not in the walls. So, I mean, that was a quick fix, but man, that was really frustrating. I still don't understand quite what happened. If anyone has any ideas of why the atlas coordinates weren't working, please let me know. Well, now we had the basic mechanics of the game. We had an enemy, we could attack the enemy, they spawn. The problem now was trying to make everything have a brain, kind of work on the AI, and I didn't know what to do at first. Thankfully, with some research, I found out that I feel like the best way to do it was with state machines and states. So it had been something I had thought about using a long time ago and trying to learn, because I knew it was a big important thing that a lot of people use. So learning state machines was huge. I loved it. It was really actually like, it makes the game feel like you have intelligent enemies that are trying to do things, and it even did it with the players. When you're not selected as the current player, I made it so that the other players on the field will move around and attack and do stuff thanks to state machines. So after implementing state machines, my enemy AI would move around randomly, see you, chase you, and then attack you once it got in range, which was, I thought, was great. That was amazing to me, seeing it come to life. At this point, I wanted to have another enemy type, so my sister quickly drew up a pepperoni pizza that chucks pepperonis at you. And I thought this turned out really well. I really liked the pepperoni pizza and its whole animation. It could be a little cleaner, but because of some things that I did with the coding. But at this point in the process, we were running out of time. We were in the second week. That weekend before, my brother and sister were really sick. I was even sick, and we couldn't work on the game as much as we'd like to. It really set us back. I mean, like, a lot of the art didn't get done because of it. Some of the like UI and like the quality of life stuff that I was going to do couldn't get done because, I mean, we just didn't have time. I was sick. You know, we're we're all really busy. I have a full-time job. I'm trying to do this stuff on the side, and you know, it just wasn't gonna work out. There was gonna be a polished, beautiful thing at the end, and we kind of knew that, you know, the Wednesday before it was due to turn in. So I mean, at the end, we threw everything together, tried to give it as much polish as we could, try to make it look nice. We also weren't able to implement the special attacks that we thought we were going to be able to do, and I think this really kind of brought the quality of the game down a ton, because there is no difference between the players now. But I mean, I think that was a very ambitious goal at first, so I'm not too upset that we didn't get to that point. I think that's a good, like, maybe this is how we would improve it later type deal. And this is kind of what we came up with. On screen now, you'll see our finished product. We really get some, like, you know, like this nice little menu. I thought this was kind of slick, but yeah, you know, this is basically it. The players do exactly what we were expecting. The enemies spawn, have like a nice little animation thing happen when they spawn. There's a lot of things that, like, we kind of threw in at the last second here, like the flashing and stuff like that, so it doesn't work. I also realized that my player AI doesn't target the pepperoni pizzas. So I mean, this game didn't come without a lot of glitches and bugs that, I mean, I just didn't have time really to fix. Also with it, I mean, you know, the animations don't play correctly. There's some like really weird stuff with like which direction you're facing. It's not pixel perfect. We did some mistakes with the art initially on choosing different pixel sizes. So I mean, you can tell that the pixel sizes are different, but the switching works beautifully. I mean, I'm dead there, but the switching works beautifully. The attacks look nice. Overall, I was pretty happy with it. Now, I did what every developer does, and then I looked at what other people were doing, and it was probably a mistake to look at some of the other games. I feel really down about the progress we made, but I was trying to remind myself that, like, this is our first time doing it, and I think for what it was worth, with having no like modular systems to put in place, this was pretty darn good for what I did. I mean, I wrote it all from scratch basically. It was nice to kind of build out my code base, my database a little bit, so it's some things that I can plug in and play with later, and this process will be a lot faster, I think, because of that. Overall, I think Pizza Geist was a success. I mean, it's not polished like a lot of other games. It's not going to be, you know, it's not going to win, right? Like, I wasn't going into this thinking that we were going to win, but it looks fairly nice. The systems I wanted to do are in place. Yes, we fell short of what I was thinking at first, but I guess I didn't know what to think either. So I think overall, I think it's good. I think there's a lot that can be improved on it. I think my experience as a game developer has grown immensely just from this, and I think that I'm starting to put in systems that are going to be used for like many games moving forward for myself. And yeah, I would just say I'm proud of this, and I'm excited to show it off to you guys. So if you liked my talk on this, if you have any suggestions, please leave a comment. Like the video, subscribe if you want to see more from me. I plan on keep moving, and I don't know what the next step is yet. I'd love to do more game jams because I think that would be a really, really cool way to keep gathering knowledge. So maybe suggest your favorite game jam or a game jam you think that would be good for me to try out. And yeah, we'll leave it here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. All right, bye bye.